Hello, do you hear me?
Hello. Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
よろしくお願いします。
よろし
はじめ
くお願いしま。
ますして、はじめまして、多分。
はじめましてです。はい。
よろしくお願いします。
First, may I ask the pronunciation Jönsson is correct?
Jönsson is very fine. Thank you.
Okay. So, well, thank you very much for this opportunity, and I'm very honored and feel happy that I can have a conversation with you. I am the supporter of Shimizu.
Yes, okay.
When you are the coach of the Shimizu, well, the team was very strong. We had very good memory. And in recent years, the Shimizu with you was the best position in the table. So that's why I was very interested how you change the team and also what is the impression of the Shimizu Espals. And so I wanted to share your comment with the Shimizu supporters.
Thank you. どうもありがとうございます。
So you are now, may I ask first what your assignment now? You are the coach of the Stabæk, or I see the emblem here.
Yes, I'm now監督 for Stabæk lady team. So Stabæk, this is actually the third time I'm coming into Stabæk. And before and for when I started as a coach, it was in Japan, 93, when J-League kicked off. So then I had 4 years in Japan, 1 year in Saint Frecce Hiroshima, and 3 years in Vissel Kobe. Then straight back home, and then I have been head coach or manager for top team men for 30 years. Then and as you're asking, and as you know, Hiroshima called again 25 years later. So then I was there, and then in Espals. But when I have not been in Japan for 6 years, I've been in Scandinavia, and maybe more. Sweden is my home country, but Norway, I have maybe been working more in Norway than in my home country. But we are neighbor countries, as you know, in Scandinavia. So to say this is the third time in Stabæk. 6 years in a row to start with, when they were in second division. Then we came up and become number 5, then we became number 2, then we became champions and number 3. So I had a very good spell there. After that, I had a chance to go to Japan demo. I went to Rosenborg, who is traditionally, historically, the biggest club in Norway. Before, they usually were in Champions League, group play, all the time. A little bit struggling the last couple of years. Demo. So shortly after last time I was in Japan in Shimizu, then I went back to Stabæk. Then I've shortly been off, and now for the first time in my career, I'm in with ladies team. Yes, so Stabæk having a strong ladies side in the top division. So a little bit curious from me, a little bit new experience. I have been over to talk to top ladies team in England and also in Sweden. So now I took the opportunity. So Stabæk in Oslo area, it's a little bit also home for me. And actually what opened the door, I have a lot of friends, of course, after 8-9 years in Stabæk. There was my daughter played in the team last year. She had played there for 4.5 years. Demo. She went to Sweden, to Stockholm, to Djurgården a couple of weeks ago, which you can say opened the door for me, and they asked me to come in as監督 for the team. That is shortly the background.
Well, very interesting. Thank you very much. And the first, yes, like you said, the Rosenborg. Well, when I was young, like I think still student, yeah, sometimes I see the name in the Champions League or the competition in Europe. And also, well, I know that also you are working for Stabæk. So I was also curious because you are from Sweden, but the Stabæk and also Rosenborg is in Norway. So I know that both countries are in Scandinavia, but the language is very similar, Sweden and Norway.
Yeah, we understand each other. Monday night, yes.
And so you are now since when you start ladies team? Like
I just started a couple of weeks ago. But I know the club and I know the team quite well, and I know Oslo, so I'm living in Oslo. It is a Oslo club, yes.
Okay. How is women's football? Because if I see the news, well, nowadays I think the stadium stadiums have a lot of audience. It's not like before. This is my impression, but you are now in the position. So how is the women's football in Europe now?
Yeah. Well, I think you can say Scandinavian lady football is quite forward. So it early days, the development has been good. And you also see, if we're talking a bigger Europe, that the biggest clubs in England, and Arsenal, Manchester United, Manchester City, Chelsea, Liverpool, they all want to go double with men and women. And they are selling, it's a good crowd. Still in Norway, we can hope for more crowd to the games. But if you're looking at the World Cup in Australia, World Cup in New Zealand last year, the European Championship 2 years ago in England, a lot of people and high quality. So the ladies is taking big steps, both in play, in the development there, but also the crowds. The big clubs in Barcelona, Real Madrid, the big derby games down there, it's 50,000-60,000. So it's interesting, and it's my feeling it's a little bit fair to the ladies, for the small girls growing up, that they have big crowds now, like the men.
Right. Well, this is also, I have impression like that, because when I was younger, well, the football, women football, well, maybe in America, USA, they had already a lot of crowd. But even Europe, they didn't have a lot of audience. But nowadays, if I see the news, a lot. And also sometimes I watch the football in South America. And even Peru, if you see, like, for example, Alianza Lima female and also Universitario with female, well, both clubs have a lot of rivalities. The stadium is full. So I think something is happening in women's football. This is my impression. So, well, it's quite interesting.
It is.
I will keep my eyes on the news of your team go well.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Now I would like to ask about Japan. What made you to come to Japan?
I went there as a coach, so it was a little bit different. Special circumstances. So I was coach, but we had my first year in Hiroshima, we had some injuries, so then I played. Yes, so that actually happened. So it gave me a couple of games together with Moriatu in the center midfield at the time. So good memories from that time. Then went from there to Vissel Kobe. Then also I went there as a coach. Then we had the Dishin, the big earthquake.
Yes, yeah.
Then we had signed 2 foreigners. We were loaded to have 3, and I was Mada quite Genki as a player, so I started to play and it went well. So I did a double job, you can say, on the field and by coaching. I was there together with Stuart Baxter as Kantoku, so I was playing coach then for 2 seasons there in Vissel. So it worked well for me and for the club, and we got the promotion. So a little bit unexpected circumstances, you can say. So my coaching head was on, and I was Mada quite Genki physically, so I could do a little bit work on the field as well.
And before you come to Japan, you are already interested in Japan, or if you have any impression before you come to Japan? Yeah,
well, I was curious about Japan. I was curious about going abroad, because I have been, as a player before, I've stayed in my home club for 15 seasons. But I had a little bit of thinking, going abroad would be interesting, and I was interested in Japan especially. So a little bit lucky circumstances, you can say. I think it was San Frecce was we had a cup. Small tournament in Scandinavia, so that was how it started, the connection with Japan actually. Yes, so that opened the door. So yes,
I don't know. That's the first San French Hiroshima joined some small competition in Scandinavia, and then you got the connection with that.
The name was Mazda at the time. I think that was in 91 or 92, and then they were preparing for the J League, and then Mazda went over to San French Hiroshima. Yes,
very, very interesting. And talking about before talking about Shimizu, so then you you also playing. I mean, you in Vissel, and then after many years later, you come back to Japan as a coach of San French Hiroshima. You still have the contact with Hiroshima, and how did you receive the offer?
Yeah, I had an opening. Since I was in Japan, I have been busy each year, but I had an opening to go abroad again. And I remember Hiroshima were struggling a little bit in J1, so they were in the bottom, and I didn't know too much about it. So I took a quick decision. They were in a kind of situation that I was in a hurry and they going to change. So I jumped into it. I had very good feelings from my 25 years before when I started in Japan. So my feeling for the club and the feeling for the town Hiroshima was quite strong. So I didn't have to think twice. So I jumped on the flight, you can say, and then trying to study as much as possible. So it was really to dig in for that and trying. Then when I'm reading about San French Hiroshima, it was good record. The last 5 or 6 years, they have been becoming champions, I think, twice or maybe 3 times. Demo, the last season was not so good, and this season, it was 2017, I think, they were also struggling. So a little bit negative trend for them. But then with a little bit of luck and a little bit of skill, we stayed up in J1 where San French belonged. So it was after I'm coming there that I'm realizing that Moriyasu had been there, and Moriyasu had done a very good job. They were a little bit club struggling at just that moment, and then he became the Olympic national coach, and then of course quite soon the top監督 for Japan, and they have been doing really good. Actually, of course, I have always been curious about following the national team, both on the men's side and also on the ladies' side. So I'm quite impressed in both ways there.
Right. Well, I fully understand. Well, Moriyasu, he was doing very good in Hiroshima, but sometimes in football something happens with some small detail. Sometimes it doesn't go well, and then also there are some cycles. But I was very curious. I was also seeing Hiroshima, and like you said, the year the Hiroshima was around the bottom of the table. They are on the verge of the relegation to the second division, and then you came. And Hiroshima was in danger. Well, they have a lot of big risk for relegation. But then you rebuilt the team, and then you made them solid, and then Hiroshima started having the points. So I was very interested. What change you did?
And I can't give you 100% answer. I think I changed the shape. I didn't have a lot of time to study. I could see they were playing a little bit more 3-4-2-1 formation. And after a quick while, I changed it over to 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1. I think we got it nice and solid to start with, because they had been struggling with some result, letting a little bit tighter at the back. After a while, better and better attacking. So maybe changing the shape helped. And after a while, I can kind of remember that Yaki, who then went to Nagoya, and I think he's playing for Nagoya. In the beginning, he was not in the squad or on the bench, but I could see, take him as an example for a very good player, growing up for each week, getting better and better. So he, as an individual, he was growing a lot. A very good player for me, and scoring goals, hard working in midfield, good football understanding. So he was one example who was growing during that year. I can remember.
Sometimes the team in around the bottom of the table, that kind of team lose confidence, and even though coach try to give the philosophy or tactics, sometimes they don't have the confidence, so it's very, very hard to rebuild the team. But in case of Hiroshima, I found that they play very realistic and a good defense, and also scored. So I was very amazed at the time. I remember it really.
Yeah, and I hope, and I think what I'm hearing when I'm hearing about that if I get it's so important, of course, when you're struggling as a team or you're having a big fans like they're having in Hiroshima, like Espals having the orange sea around, then you must show as a player that you are fighting for the fans, you are fighting for the club. Demo, you can't fight, you must breathe also, you must breathe, you must be calm enough to play football, to breathe. So hopefully I am doing some part there to, you can say, mentor thing then, to getting them so relaxed. So if you just fight, then you don't breathe. You are fighting too much. Football is fight, but it's also relax, and to get it both. And I think maybe we could do that and we did that in Hiroshima. And it is difficult because you're fighting so hard, because you don't want to go down with a club like Hiroshima to J2, of course. Then it can be a little bit too tough for some players. But maybe I was kind of helpful for the team there. And maybe I got the same experience later on in Espals, who had been struggling, as you're saying, between J1, J2, getting a little bit confidence into the team. And on the field, if you're in the bottom, maybe you're letting in too many goals, you need to be organized, you need to be disciplined, you need to work hard. Demo. Then attacking wise, you need to have a shape that you believe in, that you can breathe, and maybe to tell the players also, don't be afraid of mistake, because football is also, we do mistake, but to learn from it, to learn from the mistake, then we dare to play.
I fully understand, and I'm now very convinced, because, like you said, for example, sometimes it's very important to have the will, strong will, but also you have to take risks. But if you are in danger, like for example, you have big risk of the relegation, sometimes you can't afford to relax. You are kind of scared to be relaxed because you feel guilty. But football, sometimes you make mistakes, so you take a breeze and then try to enjoy. Maybe yes, that kind of things. Maybe also, I'm sure it changed also the team. So I think I'm not 100% sure, but I think the Shimizu Espals lost when we play Hiroshima with you. If I'm not wrong, I think in the Honda right? Yeah.
You're right. And that was at that time. I can remember actually that game because it was, of course, important for both teams. But we needed 3 points, right. And I can remember it. Yes.
I remember that. Why I had that impression because some months before, some weeks before, the Hiroshima was like, as I said, even around the bottom of the table and in the risk on the verge of the relegation. But now it was very tough, the solid and the tough. So I was very surprised when I saw the game and we lost. So I was very interested by Hiroshima in that game. And then, Hiroshima stayed in the J1, the first division. And then I thought, at that moment, I thought that you would keep working as a coach of Hiroshima. So I was kind of big surprised that you come to Shimizu. So the contract with Hiroshima was only that year, and then Shimizu offered you like that.
Yes, correct. There was a plan. Maybe I have stayed in Hiroshima longer, demo,